Cassie got us hooked up back there? Great. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's regularly scheduled council meeting. It's November 14th, 2022, and we're just after 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Oh, we flipped it around. After all those years, man. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're gonna have to say the hour table now. Yeah. Okay, next item, public comments. As I stepped in, I saw we had several signed up, and I know some of you have signed up for specific items. Let me see real quick. Figure out how to do this. Oh yeah, so it looks like there are several of you that are signed up for item number 5, having to do with Cotton Belt Crossing residential development, and there's a number 11, 13. So everybody signed up under specific items. So it usually makes more sense to hold your comments until that item comes up. That way the conversation will be more relevant. So just holler at me if I forget about it. But the first item looks like folks are signed up on. Actually, there's a number 3, Miss Kayla Williams. Miss Williams, are you here? Okay. We'll hold yours to item number 3 as well then, okay? And you can speak up, all right? So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 1A is to consider approving minutes of the council meeting held on October 10th, 2022. Those minutes are in your packet. It was our last regularly scheduled meeting. Are there any comments or corrections to those prior minutes? If there are none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the October 10th meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on item 1A. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. To item 2 is discussion and possible action regarding approval of redistricting agreement with the law office of Michael Morrison, PLLC. Here's Mr. Morrison. You bet. Sure, please.
Well, I'm prepared to talk a little bit about redistricting itself, but you've got a very full agenda. How much time would you be willing to allow me?
As much as you need. I mean, it's a big deal to us. So.
It is. Well, I think within 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. That'd be
okay.
perfect.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Manager, council members, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Looking at the 2010 and 2020 census, I guess 2 things. One, it shows growth of about 434. My best guess is that's incorrect. There's a reason that the census is always taken on the same calendar day every 10 years, April Fool's Day. In Texas in particular, we know that that probably wasn't right the day it was taken, and this was a very challenged census in 2020 simply because of everything else going around. Came out about 8 months late, but it's the only game in town, so it's the numbers we use. And according to the census on 2010, there were 4,987 residents, and in 2020 there were 5,321. I'll come back to that in a few moments. If you could go ahead, rules of redistricting. There are 2 things that we have to deal with, and they both involve equal protection. And Mayor, you'll be familiar with these. But the first is, of course, this council is the only body with the legal authority to change these lines, both under the charter and under Texas law. As such, your discretion is largely, but not entirely, unlimited. What you have to do in balancing under one person, one vote, which is an odd term because it has nothing to do with voters. It has to do with representatives. And each of you represents people, whether they're of voting age, whether they're voters, whether they're registered or not. So we're balancing people. And under equal protection, we need to protect the value of a vote. So all this first slide is telling us is under the 5th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. You have to have about the same number of people in each of your wards. Even though you're voting at large, if everybody on the council were running by place, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mayor, we wouldn't have to be here tonight. But with wards, 1, 2, 3, 4 wards, and the residency requirement to be in that ward, even though it's an at-large election, you're representing a specific area. We don't have to balance population precisely, but we have to balance population with an intolerance. And we look at the variance between the ward with the highest population and compare it to the ward with the lowest population. And then we take the variance as a product of an ideal district. And we'll see in a moment what the ideal district is. But what this slide tells us is if you have too few people in a ward, those people each have a greater share of, quote, their council members' attention business. And so they're overrepresented. If you have too few people, overrepresented. If you got too many people in the wards, then those people are getting less of a share. And so it doesn't have to be perfect. Can you do the next slide? The classic example, this is the case that Lyndon Olson, Sr., took to the United States Supreme Court that for the first time applied one person, one vote to other than congressional and statewide races. Under one person, one vote, the case involved Mayor Hank Avery of Midland, city of Midland. Midland County Commissioners Court, like all the commissioners courts in Texas, has 4 commissioners elected from precincts and 1, the county judge, elected at large. Midland redistricted itself so that 3 of the commissioner precincts occupied the 828 people who lived outside the city of Midland. So 852, 414, 828. City of Midland with 67,906 people got to elect 2 commissioners. They got to elect the commissioner of their precinct, and they had the votes to elect the county judge, which meant that anytime a vote came up, the 2,000 people who lived outside the city controlled the commissioner's court. At the time, no one thought that was an issue. Hank Avery came to the city of Waco, hired Lynn Olson Sr. They took it all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And so at the very top, Constitution poses one ground rule for the arrangements of local government, requirement that units of general governmental powers over an entire geographic area are not to be apportioned or to be apportioned among single member districts. They can't have substantially unequal population. You can't have overrepresentation with people getting more power than they deserved. In this case, the rural residents of Midland County got more power than they deserved, and those of the city of Midland, as you can see, were significantly underrepresented. Okay, next slide, please. How close must the balance be? So again, we look at the population, in your case, of the 4 wards, determine which ward has the most people, which ward has the fewest people, look at the difference between those, and see how that compares to, as a percent, to the ideal ward. An average deviation of 3 or 4%, a maximum deviation of under 10% is what you expect. Once you exceed 10% maximum deviation, that is the difference between the highest and the lowest population as a percent of the ideal, once that exceeds 10%, you've lost any presumption of constitutionality. There are exceptions. For example, would be a case out of California where the percentage went significantly above 10%, but half of the district was on one side of a mountain range, and the other half would have to have been on the other side of the mountain range. And geography simply said you can have overrepresentation in that setting. Texas, we don't have many mountain ranges in this part of Texas. It's the two worst hobbies I found are skiing and scuba diving. I'm not a skier, but I thought I was going to be a scuba diver until I found out how far you had to drive. All right, next slide. I want to point to the asterisk at the bottom, and I'll show you a moment in a slide. This is not at all uncommon. In a city the size of Waco, for example, the fact that the current Waco map and the map the Census Department, Bureau of the Census used were at odds, threw the numbers off, but it didn't make a significant difference because we were a few hundred people out of 126,000, 130,000. When you've got an ideal of 1,322 people, that's your city council, city limits divided by 4. The total, as you go across, of the census is 5,290 total, 2,450 answered the census as being Anglo or white, 410 answered as being African American or black, 2,193 said we're of some Hispanic origin, and you had a mixture of 237 that were answered a minority of one of 19 minority settings, but not one of those. So your total minority profile is at 2840, which is a significant minority profile. As you look down if you look at the city and the distribution of the population, most of the black or African American population is in wards 1 and 2. They're not everybody, but under the census, most are. Of those who answered of Hispanic origin, they're pretty evenly spread throughout the community. That's, again, not unusual in Central Texas. As far as 1, 2, 3, and 4, Ward 1, let me just get this out. Now here I'm using a census map which is at odds with the city's ward maps. Again, not uncommon, probably have been some annexations in the last 10 years, I don't know. But using census figures on the city's map, Ward 1 has, and these are all approximate, 1,417 people. So it'd be about 94 people high. The approximate for Ward 2 is 1,014, about 300 low. 3, 1,249, about 73 low. And 4, 1,610, over 280 high. So the variance between 2 and 4, which is your extremes, the variance is 596 people. As a percentage of the ideal, that's 45.07%. Now again, once, and if you would go to the next slide, on the left is what you have on your website as the city limits. I don't know if that's current, but that's what I had. On the right, you can see the census lines, and you can see there are some distinctions. Now, some of the areas that don't appear in the census may or may not be highly populated, can't tell. But once I take the census lines and get a current map with annexations or whatever, and decide what's really in the city, City of Belmead, for example, there are census counts on areas that really aren't in the city of Belmead. They're in the city of Waco, or they're in Lacey Lakeview. So what we're probably going to find is some of the areas in the census map may really be in the city, but a number of them aren't. And until I can put those back on the computer and go through and compare and adjust, I can't give you a precise population, but I would be shocked if whatever we found out was very far off this 45% maximum deviation. If it was half of that, it would still be twice what you would want to have. And the good and the bad, Mayor, council members, in a smaller city like we are here in McGregor, fixing it's pretty easy in the sense of moving a few blocks. Once I have a sense of what should the council want me to do it, have a sense of what the council thinks is wise. The bad is it doesn't take many, 500 people to put you out. 500 people in Waco, it wouldn't be a bump, but 500 people here is. If you would, please. In balancing population, you also have to make certain that you don't violate the 14th and 15th Amendments and the Voting Rights Act. Remember the Civil War amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th. We all learned that in 8th grade civics. The 5th and the 14th prohibit federal or state governments from drawing distinctions based upon invidious comparisons. Characteristics that you can't change, immutable characteristics, and race being the principal one that drove this in the amendments. So you look at the 15th Amendment, right to vote shall not be denied or abridged by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So the 13th freed, 14th gave the right to vote. Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. The 15th Amendment was passed just after the Civil War. It wasn't until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that Congress significantly exercised the power of the second section of that amendment, with the Voting Rights Act of 65, amended in 72, 75, and 82. Originally, under the Voting Rights Act, Texas was honestly, in the interest of time, that's more history than you need to know, or have any interest in it. So the amendments, Texas came in under 75 because we didn't have any of the tests that pulled you within the Voting Rights Act's enforcement prior to then. Things like literacy test, grandfather clauses, property ownership requirements, all of which we have had at one point or another, but by 65 we didn't. What pulled us in was in 75, the use of a single language ballot when you had over a 5% single language minority in your population, which is why we now do so much in Spanish, because it's required by federal and state law. 82 simply said, up until 82, if you were going to argue that there had been a dilution of voting strength, you had to prove that that's what we intended. After 82, Congress said, look, proving intent is hard. All we're really concerned with is the effect. And so whether you have the intent to do it or simply the effect of what you've done is to accomplish this dilution, it violates the Voting Rights Act. Okay? Could you move? This slide, and here I'm going to give Angelia a copy of this. You actually have a copy, and maybe you can get the PowerPoint so I don't take up your time with it. What I'm about to tell you is while you have to not discriminate against minority vote, and you have to balance population, the balancing of the population is the most important. And an example would be, let's suppose, for example, your highest minority profile is Ward 2. And Ward 2 has a total minority profile of over 70%. Again, remember that number could change once we get the lines straightened out. Ward 2 is 300 people low. You probably can't bring, looking around Ward 2, an area to bring in 300 people that would keep the profile at 71%. You probably are going to end up moving in more Anglos, than 30% or 29%, just looking at the map. If that's the case, that's unavoidable because the principal rule is balancing the population. And if you have to bring in a population that lowers a minority profile, that's not a violation of equal protection. It's being done to meet equal protection. My best guess is that in McGregor, because of the diffusion of the Hispanic profile and the relative concentration of the African American profile, that probably is not going to be an issue that creates much difficulty for the city. But I wanted to let you know that it's possible as we bring that population up that profile could drop slightly. If it does, it's not a violation of the Voting Rights Act if it was done unavoidably to balance population. Where it's a problem is if you didn't have to do it to balance population. Okay. The poster child, Gamillion versus Lightfoot, went to the Supreme Court, and the city of Tuskegee redrew their city. And they took it from an irregular 28-sided figure to a 4-sided figure. And they said serendipitously, that happened to remove all but 4 or 5 of the 400 black voters and did not remove a single white voter. And the Supreme Court says that's a violation of the Voting Rights Act. And that was clearly an intent. But assuming they were just blind and dumb, the effect of that would be the same, and that would be a classic violation of the Voting Rights Act. And just like Avery versus Midland County is the poster child for one person, one vote, Gamillion versus Lightfoot's the poster child for dilution. Okay? Please. Just go ahead and click all the way down on that slide. That's good. As we redraw the lines, one of the things that is important is to protect incumbency. And the idea of protecting incumbency, quite frankly, has nothing to do directly with those of you on the council. Protecting incumbency is the voters put you on the council, you're there at their choice, and pairing you without that being the desire of the council means somebody is going to lose their elected representative, because if 2 of you are put in the same ward, only 1 of you can win. And so if you look down that, everything up there really is designed to protect the voter, maintain the core of existing wards. You know, people get used to who they're with. We don't have to worry as much about election precincts in Texas anymore. Communities of interest. If you've got a neighborhood that tends to work and vote together, if you split it in half, that may impair their ability to elect candidates of their choice. So, okay, one more, please. Go ahead and open all that if you would. Okay. That's just a summary of what I've basically told you. The most important part of that is the very tail end. And that is my job's not to drive 14 miles over here from Waco to tell McGregor how to redistrict. My job is to come over here, if I'm hired, to find out what you think the lines ought to look like for McGregor, and for me to get you as close to those as the law allows. So if we proceed, the first thing I would do is come back after getting the most current map you have with a better set of numbers, and with an example of how that might be done with the least disruption to cores of interest, incumbency, et cetera, as something to look at. And then if there's anything about it you like as a council, keep that. If there's nothing about it you like as a council, give me direction. We'll come back with something different. You are under some time pressure if you want to have this done for the 23 election. You've got December 19th to post notice the filing deadline. The filing starts January 18th. It ends February 17th. From my standpoint, there's not really a problem. Where the difficulty arises typically is now with Thanksgiving coming up and Christmas coming up and New Year's coming up, finding times that the council can meet. So if you decide to move forward, and you want to have it done in time for the next election, we're probably looking at about a 2.5 month process at the most, Mr. Mayor. I could keep talking, but I won't. Are there any questions that I could respond to?
So Mike, when you say the 2.5 months, would that be assuming we kind of get this process started tonight, or were you talking about taking into account the holidays and then we get started after that? So
I don't think we want to wait till after the holidays, because one of the things you're going to want to have is an opportunity for the public to see what's going on at a meeting and have a hearing for people who, you don't want to be so far along with what you've got in mind that it's a fait accompli, but you want to be far enough along with what you think you might be willing to adopt for the public to get an idea, but to have input while there's still an opportunity for the council to make adjustments. And again, I think in looking at the map, I can make adjustments moving no more than 10 or 12 or 14 or 20 blocks perhaps. That doesn't mean those would be wise adjustments. I would come back to you with the least change I could conceive of that would address the legal issues, and then let you look at them and see if they make any sense. But I think getting started, if you decide to do this, I think getting started now, so the next time the council meets, there's something to look at.
And so if we're talking about the 2023 election, we're talking about May, April, May?
May 1st.
So what would be our end goal? What would we shoot for?
Well, I'm going to leave that to your city attorney and your city, but in looking at the election dates, on December 19th, you're going to have candidate filing, notice of filing, but filing starts January 18th. And for wards, whatever wards are up this next election, by January 18th, if someone wants to run, they need to know what ward they're in. And filing closes February 17th. So I guess in theory, we wouldn't all turn into pumpkins if it wasn't ready by the opening of filing. But there would need to be time during filing for the lines to be determined, so candidates or potential candidates could decide, am I or am I not in this district or ward.
And Mike, do we take into account at all, we've got a lot of growth going on, I mean, literally right now with all these developments, in some stage of development. Do we take into account that at all? Do you try to anticipate what may be happening or not?
You can. The problem is, with concentrated growth, there's not much room to take it into account without throwing yourself out of tolerance with the 2020 census. And if you ended up in court, the 2020 census is what the court would use. And the exception, and I in 44 years of doing this, I've never had a client do it. If you could come up with a census that you could establish in a judicial proceeding was citywide more accurate than the census, you might be able to sell that to a court. The problem is, well, we know there are going to be 500 new people out here because this subdivision has already been platted and they're already doing dirt work. They're not in the census. And if you put that 500 people into the process and then you're challenged, they're going to say, well, what about this area over here that you didn't include? And so you open a can of worms. I'm not saying you can't.
Take it as it is.
If we were here prior to August of 2021, when the census was released, and we were moving forward, at that point, we would still use the 2010 census. April Fool's Day, remember? First census David Gwynn and I worked with was in 1975 with Judge Haley over in Limestone and Freestone County. And we were using the 1970 census a year before the 1980 census was available.
So we're not going to be too far off then. We'll be a couple of years, and that's not too bad then, I would.
It's not. No, well, I mean, nobody really had a chance. We didn't have census figures until last August,
Yeah, that's true.
a year ago. And so,
Pretty close.
yeah, if you hire me, you will be the last client I do this go round. Just because, everybody's going to do it unless anybody that doesn't do it by this census probably won't do it till they get sued. And you don't want to get sued because you're going to lose in a lawsuit. And then whoever you hire to represent you and whoever sues you both get paid.
Lawyers always get paid.
Well, that's not all bad, Jimmy.
Yeah, I know. I'm all for that.
Happy to provide any information or to sit down as you prefer.
Well, Council, I don't see that we have any other choice. I mean, I think the decision is easy. We've got the right person, and unfortunately, we're still not out of time, so.
Yeah, is there a requirement that the wards be determined prior to, like, the last day you can file?
I think as a practical matter, that could be a problem because, you know, every one of you has run for office, and you'd like to know the day before filing if you even had an office to run for.
Yeah.
When I said we wouldn't all turn into pumpkins if it wasn't done the first day, my advice would not be to wait until after the first day of filing to finish this if you want it for this election. I think that simply invites criticism.
Sure.
I don't know that we really have an issue with the holidays. I mean, our city council meetings are,
Yeah, we roll on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
and if we
That's
have to
right.
have an add-on meeting, that's okay too.
Yeah, and we could have a special meeting if we needed to, so. So what kind of time do you need, Mike? And this seems like a pretty involved process, so if we can keep you moving.
I think once I get a no-fooling, honest-to-gosh, current and correct map, I can have something to be looking at within a matter of days. Again, you've got 4 pieces to work with, and I need to place each of the council members who are representing wards, so I didn't move one of them. But what I'm suggesting to do this for is about 1/3 of what the city of Waco paid me, because it's about 1/3 of the effort.
Kevin, do you have any comments on this?
Quicker the better.
Yeah.
Well, I'll sit down.
All right, so, council, is there a motion on this? Then we'll open it up for any other questions or comments.
I make a motion that we proceed with Mr. Morrison to redistrict the city of McGregor.
Okay, there's a motion, a second on item number 2. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. You're hired.
All right, Angela, I'll contact you tomorrow about maps. Okay, thank you.
Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, that takes us to item number 3. And this is a public hearing on the preliminary utility and drainage plans, preliminary plat for the Hahn Investments, McGregor Development, dated July 27, 2022. So, city staff, we're going to get some update before we open this public hearing on what we got going here.
Good evening, council. So this is the development, the Hahn development that's going in along 317 and Main. Phase 1 and Phase 2 are within the yellow area there, total 117 residential lots. It's not working. Can you go to the next one? So this is their preliminary plat there. I don't know if there's anyone here to speak on that tonight. Y'all have any questions?
So are you with the Hahn Development?
Yes, I'm the engineer.
Okay, great. So whenever you get finished with your presentation, let us know, and then we'll certainly let you speak. And this is, you're the Miss Williams who signed up, is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
I'm just here to answer any questions.
What questions do y'all have for me?
Yeah, so tell us where we are within the process. I know there was a lot of concerns about drainage and that sort of thing, so
I will use this. I think this works.
what do we have going here?
So this is kind of inverted just to be able to put on the slide. There is a retention pond that's right here. And then basically from this area across will all drain down this way through some culverts and some drainage that's here. And then this back section here will drain back towards the McGregor Caulfield Road.
It's draining north to south, correct? And the retention area is going to be at or near the bridge going under 317, is that correct?
So is it designed to push water under 317 or not?
It's designed to hold the water back. If you'll please go up to the report. Thank you.
It's currently designed to hold the water back at the existing condition. So any of the water, all of the water from this site flows down to those culverts right now and flows under that road. So our pond is going to hold the water back and release it slowly at the same rate that it's currently getting there. And it'll all go underneath those culverts.
And how many culverts do we have? Is it one set of culverts there under 317? That's all we have, right?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound correct?
It's a big bank of culverts.
Yeah, but it's in one location.
Correct.
And so there are two different directions of drainage, is that right? There's one moving down to the south and there's another one to the north, is that what you're telling us?
So there's a small section on the very top right. You can see like maybe those first 4 lots. That's kind of like a high point, and so it sheds both ways at that location. So it's a very small area around those first 4 lots that will go back to the roadside ditch of that road.
And someone explain the process. Are your engineers preparing this drainage plan?
Yes, sir.
Do we have our engineers looking at it?
Jacob?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Yes, they have submitted their plans to us, especially this preliminary one. We have looked at it. We've looked at their calculations. We're pretty comfortable with everything they've done so far. Again, there's already a substantial drainage swell that runs through that property. They're going to be utilizing that area. And again, like Kayla mentioned, they have designed a detention pond that will be discharging the water at the same or lower rate for each design storm that they've looked at. So what, 2, 5, 25, and 100? Is that correct?
Maybe even 10, I think.
Maybe even the
2,
10
5,
year.
10, 25, 100.
There you go. So
What are you referring to when you're using those numbers?
So those are the design storms. So a 2-year storm has a 50% chance of occurring at any given time, up to a 100-year, which would be a 1% chance of happening at any given time. So they look at each one of those, and the detention pond is designed, and the outfall is designed such that during a 2-year event, whatever the existing flow that it's experiencing now without the development, that's what that outfall structure would discharge during a 2-year event, either at or below what the current discharge is. And the same for each design storm that they've analyzed.
So that's when you say the 2, 5, 10, and 20, all the way up to 100.
Correct.
Okay. So the flow is of how this occurs is their engineers bring the plan to you, and then you approve it, disapprove it, tweak it, whatever needs to be done.
That is correct, yes, sir. We've reviewed their preliminary plat and their preliminary drainage and utility layouts and provided comments back to them. And then they've also submitted their preliminary plat, obviously like this, and then their drainage and utility was very similar. Kayla's actually already submitted almost a full set of plans for us to review as well. So we're in the process of doing that and providing comments back to them for that.
Okay, well, good. So at this time then, we'll officially open the public hearing. The public hearing on item number 3 is open at 7:12. Public hearing is open under item 3 for anybody to comment. Whether you're signed up or not, you're free to speak. Hearing or seeing no one commenting, And the public hearing is closed. It's 7:12. That takes us to item 4, which is discussion and possible action regarding preliminary utility and drainage plans and preliminary plat for Han Investments McGregor Development dated July 27, 2022. Okay, so here's what we would approve. What we see here, the preliminary plans and plat. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's preliminary in both phase 1 and 2, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Meaning that it still has to go through more review and approvals, come back to us for a final plat approval.
Yes, sir.
Okay. City staff, is there anything that y'all see as concerns about what we are looking at right now?
No, sir, if there was, you wouldn't be seeing it.
Okay. Have we made any significant changes to anything?
We did, there was a variance request down here for this cul-de-sac. The length of the cul-de-sac was too long. So the fire code says that it can't be over a certain length, and so this is an older version, but I believe they're bringing a road. Is that right, Kayla? You're bringing a road? They're going to bring this road across over here to shorten the length of this cul-de-sac here and just bring it all the way across.
But as far as lot sizes, layouts of streets, obviously we've talked about the drainage. Does this include plans yet for curb gutter, that sort of thing? Are we not to that point yet?
I believe it does, yes, sir.
So is that part of the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They meet all our specs, correct?
They will have to, yes.
Well, I don't mean construction specs, I mean width
Utilities.
and length and
Correct.
radius and all that stuff.
So this is still a 117 unit plan? Is that correct?
There should be this, I think they're going to lose one lot. I'm sorry, sir. They're going to lose a lot somewhere right in here. And then as this comes across, they're going to lose one of these lots here and then shore these up to make that road go across.
It's 117 as it sits, or is it 117 with the adjustments?
Will it be 117 with your adjustments, or 117, or 116?
It'll be 160.
116.
Yeah, what are the range of sizes from a large to a small? What are we talking about?
They're mostly half-acre lots. There's a couple of them that are a little bit bigger just because of the, you know, the curves, the turns, the corner lots, and so on. But generally half-acre lots.
So for everybody, whether it's council or the citizens here tonight, what are in general, the lot sizes, for example, over at Navajo Trail?
Oh,
Anybody
quarter
remember?
acre at best.
Okay, so we're looking at twice that size.
Oh, yeah. This is considered a larger lot subdivision.
Okay, all right, so, council, any other questions about this? And if not, is there a motion? And we can ask more if you want to.
Move we approve the preliminary plats, item 4.
There's a motion and a second under item 4. Any other questions, comments? Sherry?
On the P and Z notes, did they make those adjustments on here?
Are you asking about the planning and zoning minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they'll be in there. The notes will be in.
No, but they were saying contingent with adding a cross street across that deep drainage culvert to reduce the length of the cul-de-sac. Is that in these plans, or is that still to be?
I haven't finalized the meeting notes from last Monday, but it will be in there.
So when it comes back to us, it'll literally
Well,
be drawn in.
Right, it'll be an updated plat with the road going across.
Anybody else? Hearing no further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. That takes us to item 5, which is the public hearing on preliminary and utility drainage plans and preliminary plat for construction of Cotton Belt Crossing Residential Development for Cotton Belt Crossing LLC, dated October 4th, 2022.
Okay, so this is a 3-phase project, 181 total residential. Again, large lot size, half acre or more. Cotton Belt Parkway over here, and then this is Wildflower Road. Up here you have an entrance there and an entrance there.
So show us again to give us those, that's Cotton Belt, it's kind of,
This is Cotton Belt Parkway right here,
okay.
and then this is Wildflower, and you have Highway 84 up here.
All this will have to be annexed.
Is this the extension? Well, this is phase 1.
This is a different project than I think the one that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
So phase 1 would be what, green?
Yes, this is
Pale green.
this is phase 1 right here, the larger green portion.
And that section that's kind of blue, is that what, a retention pond or something?
Down here is drainage retention pond, and then up here, because of the utility easement, they have green space.
Okay.
Jacob, the detention pond area is also where the lift station's gonna be? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. So, like Kevin mentioned, this will have to be annexed, so there aren't any city utilities currently available to service this area. So as part of the first phase, they'll have to design and build a lift station and a force main that will allow them to pump the wastewater back to the nearest city of McGregor gravity wastewater line. So that will be in the, kind of at the dead end of that cul-de-sac that goes towards the blue area. There'll be a lift station within that blue area. So there'll be an easement and everything dedicated to the city of McGregor for that, for those improvements.
And that'll be at the developer's cost.
Correct.
Kevin, is that correct?
Yes, sir. You put in a main line that goes all the way down that old railroad right away, you've done a bigger part of your cost.
It'll be similar on the, it'll be similar on the water as well. So the water is, like Kevin mentioned, it's along the old railroad berm, and so they'll have to extend water over to this site as well.
And this is in the same stage as the prior issue we addressed, preliminary plat stage.
Correct.
Now, there is an expense we will have to bear to put fire protection along Wildflower. If you'll recall, whenever the subdivision was there, our developer was not the real developer, I'll just put it that way. And we got some good properties out there, but fire protection has yet to be extended, and we'll use this effort here to go ahead and pay our part to get that fire protection extended down that road.
So the water main is what, essentially parallel to the train trestle there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And-
Yep.
And sewer is at a different location, because it's gotta go,
Well, it's
No,
really
it-
not the same place.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just on the opposite
Good
side
point.
of the old railroad berm.
But sewer stops at the parks,
Correct.
right in there. Currently.
and so they're gonna force main it to how far till gravity flows back to
You know, I haven't looked at that. I don't know the answer to that, Mayor. We'd have to look. It's possible that they could. I think they have to at least get it to wildflower, and then it might be able to gravity down. But I don't know the answer, the exact answer to that question.
That'll be tight.
Yeah.
But also, you'll be seeing, I believe you got the preliminary today for December's meeting for
One of them
the
is
second
there.
part of the parks. It's coming.
When you say
Okay.
fire protection, you mean in fire plugs or hydrants, right?
Yes, sir.
So, just thinking out loud, with all the development going on 84, all the way up to Woodway, you know, how far apart did can the fire departments be before you have to consider something closer? Is it density, population density, or is it distance?
We'll take care of our city limits and they'll take care of theirs. Ours, we will be doing a study this year on relocating our fire station.
Okay, that's
We need to centralize it, and my guess is it'll be moving back over in here, but we need to identify that pretty quickly so that we can get the property locked up. Waco will undoubtedly have to do the same, and my guess, what's probably gonna trigger theirs is that development that has jumped over on this side of the airport. They currently cover our airport, obviously, with the first attack, but we also have phone capabilities and can get there. But we'll work with Waco on those locations as well.
Where is the closest fire station? Is it
Their
Woodway?
location is down Spiegelville Road.
Spiegelville.
Oh, there is one down there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
To the
Right
right, not very far down Spiegelville to the right.
It's right by Twin Rivers.
Okay,
on Spiegelville
okay,
Road.
all right. Haven't driven down there in a while.
Yeah.
But as they grow together with us, they'll need to be building one out this direction. And they will grow together with us. That's their next growth corridor, and they are very aware of it.
Okay, it's 7:24. Public hearing is open on item 5. Are there any comments from the public? Yes, sir.
My question.
You'll need to.
Please use the microphone.
Yeah, my name is Bob Parker, and I'm a resident of McGregor and live on Wildflower. So my question is, the first greenbelt area, where is it, or what is the 100 block of Wildflower that begins? Does anyone know?
No clue. I don't know what's your 100 block?
I'm 358.
Which direction, left or right? do you
Well,
live?
off of Cotton Belt, I'm like the 5th property off of Cotton Belt. So I don't know where that puts
Is it
me.
further west from you?
I'm sorry?
Is that west from you? Is that greenbelt west from?
Well, that's my question. I don't know how many feet it is off of Cotton Belt. So I don't, I was just curious, where that green belt starts with respect to our homes on Wildflower.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, if somebody had a magnifying glass, you might be able to tell on this one right here.
Yeah, to the left a little bit is where that existing home is on the opposite side from where your property is.
Okay, that's where the old farmhouse, okay, well then, those green belts are gonna be across from our.
Yeah, it looks like it'd be right directly across from
Yeah,
you.
yeah, okay, all right. And my other question is, will those green belts collect water, or are they just rebuilt?
Oh, there you go. Sorry, the retention pond is right there in the bottom.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, David Chandler. On that retention pond, are y'all pumping that water uphill into the sewer system, or is it gonna continue down on your map?
Yes, sir. It would be the same where it would, the detention pond will be built to handle again, all the different storm events, but then it would be released downstream. So again, they won't be releasing, they'll be required to release at the same or a lower rate than what the current release rate is.
Well, yeah, I live just 200 something feet from that retention pond.
Mhm.
And a slow release of water will come across my place, will just make a marsh. And I'll lose access to the backside. My neighbor, Jose Herrera, he's got about a 12-inch culvert.
Mhm.
And McLaren's on the other side of me, he's got about a 16-inch one. I don't have any. I let the water comes in and it just spreads out. And after a good rain, I can wait 3 days and drive across it. But if I have a long, steady flow of water on there, that's black dirt.
Sure. Yeah, we'll just, I mean, again, this is very preliminary, so we don't actually have the calculations. So I would have to just wait, and we'd have to wait and see what that detention time is and how long it would actually take. And we can
Yeah.
give you a better idea on that.
Because normally a rain, you wait 3 days and drive, and if
Sure.
it keeps flowing, I can't feed the cows.
Sure. Like I said, I mean, again, this is very preliminary. We don't have that in-depth of calculations yet. They've just kind of said, this is where it's gonna go. So, and again, I'm here on behalf of the city, and I work on behalf of the city to review it. I'd have to work with their engineer to figure out how they size it and what that detention time would be and how long it would take to release that amount.
Jacob, could it
There's
be,
3 of us concerned.
could it be channelized to the drainage highway department? Could it be channelized to the existing drainage of the ditch across the back there?
Potentially, yes.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to put, bridges in and culverts and dig it out, if it was to just come across our place.
Sure.
The way I see it. And I don't have the money for it. I'm disabled, retired, and I can't do it.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, it would be a deal where the flow rate wouldn't be increased. Now, you may have a point that if it would take longer for it to drain that detention pond,
Yeah,
so the
and
time
then
it's releasing may
it's
be longer, but
really mushy then.
Yeah.
You know how black dirt acts.
Sure, sure.
It's, I think that's all I had.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
for those comments. Anybody else? Okay, 7:30, the public hearing under item 5 is closed. That takes us to item 6, discussion and possible action regarding preliminary utility and drainage plans and preliminary plat for construction of Cotton Belt Crossing residential development for Cotton Belt Crossing LLC, dated October 4, 2022. Is there a motion under item 6?
I move that we approve the preliminary utility and drainage plans and preliminary plat mentioned in item 6.
Wait, Kevin, you mentioned annexation. When does that take place?
As soon as we can get it started, if he's ready to, we're at the point now, he's got to make a decision on a final plat, so he's been ready. We've got to make some adjustments in the law. Charlie's been looking at that, but we're ready to start. We'll probably be doing 3 annexations all at the same time. Part of the Han subdivision has to be annexed as well, as does another one that's coming forward, the old Boyd Pewitt property. It's got 53 acres on this side of that right-of-way that's going to have to be annexed as well. So we'll be doing all those pretty quickly.
Well, I'll second the motion. Sorry.
Okay, we got a motion and a second under item 6. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. To item 7, which is a public hearing on minor preliminary plat for construction of duplex at 203 Hayes Street for Tulasi Enterprises LLC, dated October 6, 2022. All
All right, so this is a duplex, potential duplex for right here. Was originally 4 small parcels, and so the replat is combining 4 of the 4 parcels into 2 here, and then there'll be a duplex on this lot here, just like these 2, almost the exact same floor plan as those on this side.
So there are
Two
2.
duplexes that's already there.
Yeah.
Where are the 2 duplexes that's right?
There's 2 right here,
Okay,
and then yeah, so there's a couple in the area. There's 2 here. There's the triplex that you all approved last year is up in this area, and then there's another duplex further down the road.
okay, so is that on where you're talking about doing that, is that on the same side that those duplexes?
It's on the other side of Second Street, so right here, where that little marker's at. Is that what you're asking?
Now, say, is it on the same side of the other duplex? Is it on the, they're on the, if you're coming down Hayes, they're on the right-hand side.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So are those gonna be on the right-hand side?
Yes, sir. So they'll be right here, and then they'll all be in a row.
So that on that corner there,
Yes, sir.
where they cleaning it off at now?
Yes, sir.
And are the drive entrances on Hayes or Second?
They'll be on Hayes, right
Just
here.
like the 2 above it?
Yes, sir.
And that many lots is in there?
There was 4 smaller lots,
Oh, okay.
and they're combining them so that it's going to be 2 larger lots. So instead of 4, it'd be 2.
I know it looked like that one wondering how many lots was in there for it.
My understanding is that the railroad sold a bunch of narrow lots way back in the day, and that's what exists a lot of area over there.
Wide street right-of-ways and narrow lots.
So are they gonna be similar to those 2 that there?
Yes, sir. My understanding is the same architect that designed them.
Okay, it's 7:35. The public hearing under item 7 is open. Anybody? Hearing nothing, the public hearing is closed at 7:35. That takes us to item 8, which is discussion and possible action regarding minor preliminary plat for construction of duplex at 203 Hayes Street for Tulasi and Enterprises LLC dated October 6, 2022.
Mayor, if I may, this is 7 and 8 is just the replatting of it, and then the next one is a special use permit.
Say again, Andrew?
I guess I could wait till, for the
8 and 9?
for the hearing on the specific use permit,
Okay.
because I have something to say, in reference to, to the 8 and 9.
All right, so under item 8, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for, no, wait, I'm sorry. We're,
That's correct.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
For construction duplex at 203 Hayes Street.
There's a motion and a second under item 8. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. That motion carries. Now to 9, which is the public hearing regarding the specific use permit for construction of duplex at 203 Hay Street for Tulasi Enterprises LLC dated October 6, 2022. So, if everybody will recall, you have to have a special use or specific use permit for this, which gives us, what, Kevin, the ability to put some parameters, restrictions, that sort of thing on what is built and how it's built?
Well, you already have that. What you're thinking of, I think, is if they make application to be part of the infill process, and they have not as of this time, have they?
No, sir.
Okay. They still have that option,
So this is just controlled then by zoning?
zoning and the standard building code. Universal. Which one are we doing? The building code, whatever one we've adopted. Universal. Uniform.
Uniform.
Got it.
Okay, so with that, anything you need to say about this?
Just go back one here. The P and Z, it's gonna be in their notes as well. Dude, if y'all approve this specific use permit, over here this is a large right of way because of the historic street here. They agreed to have a smaller, it should be a 15-foot setback. They agreed to let them have a 10-foot setback over here just because there's already such a setback on this side and the street is wide enough. So visually it's not an issue. So they're going to have a little 5-foot variance there on the side yard.
And what were you showing on in later slides?
Thank you. I think batteries are going dead. This is just the layout of the duplex. So they've got the wiring schematics and all the measurements. Just kind of give you a visual of what they will look like, but they look like the ones that are on Hayes.
So that's 2 duplexes, 4 living quarters, and each of them are roughly 1,200 square feet.
Do you know whether the 2 that are north of that participated in the infill program or not?
I don't. It's a different owner.
I'd be curious to know that if you can do that.
All right, at 7:40, the public hearing under this item is open. Anybody want to comment under item 9? Hearing nothing, 7:40, the public hearing is closed. Under item 9, that takes us to item 10, which is discussion possible action regarding specific use permit for construction of duplex at 203 Hayes Street for the Tulasi Enterprises LLC dated October 6, 2022. Andrew, I know you had a comment here.
You know, from way back, we've always, the city, we know we needed housing, we needed places for people to live. And then, you know, we studied, you know, out at the industrial park, we're getting, you know, jobs coming there, companies and things, so definitely it's gonna be, you know, more people moving into McGregor and you know, needing places to live. And at one time, especially, I know Paul and Jimmy, we definitely remember back, that was one of our problems, definitely, we didn't have housing, we didn't have people here, we had people coming there and the jobs coming in, they were working, but they were driving from Waco, Gateful, Temple, wherever. So my thing of it is, and it's in Ward 1, it's a lot of vacant property over there, a lot of empty spaces. And the thing that I've said before, when we did these different things of building, even giving special permit over there, I don't have a problem with it, and I know we need housing, but the thing that I have always kind of held back on or looked at most of all of us know what duplexes are. You're not talking about a small or medium-sized single-family home. Okay, and duplexes is just what they are, a rental property. So, and we all know, or anybody that, that have traveled in East McGregor, been over there, yeah, a lot of those duplexes are definitely an improvement over some of the houses that have been tore down over there, some of the houses that's in East McGregor. But my thing of it is, if you continue, and I know we can't make anyone come in here and build some small single-family homes or whatever, first-time with home. But if you continue in a area, a ward like that, and all you're putting is rental property, these factories are here, they're hiring, people coming in here. Yeah, people gonna be living in those duplexes, but just we all know, and it's possible, not saying it is, and we hope that it don't. We know what happened with Smead. When Smead came here and people moved, and I mean, that was a job, and there was plenty of people working there, living right in McGregor. Okay, so a lot of those jobs, and we hope that it don't, for whatever reason, close down, have to close down, move out, or whatever, then you be then completely certain section of town of putting a lot of rental property. So when they move out, that's what you're gonna have. And if you just got rental property set there, what's gonna happen to it? It's gonna take a while to get back to looking like some of those houses that were over there, or some of the property that was over there, but eventually, if there's nobody living in them, it's gonna go down. And most people, I feel like, if you get a small single-family home or whatever, and I can understand these people, the people that are invested in this and coming in here, they're looking, it's not saying it's all, but we understand it money-wise. But then, if someone buying something, they're gonna take more pride in it, and they're gonna more likely to live in it, until they can do better. What you call starter homes, like. It's a lot of young families that maybe could buy some smaller, not these $300,000 or $400,000 homes, but I'm saying with the duplexes, there's nothing wrong with building them over there, and they're definitely looking nice and all of that, but that's what we're steady putting over there. So eventually we're gonna have a lot of duplexes in East McGregor, and you're gonna have a lot of rental property. Now it's some, and I'm not saying, because we know there's some small family homes being built over there, but not at the rate that the duplexes are being built. So that's my only concern, and like I voted for it, and even though other one is being built, because I know we need somewhere for, if we're gonna have these companies coming in here and people to live when they come here, because we'd rather have them living here than driving from Waco or Temple or wherever. That's fine, but I would hope that somewhere down the line we may could get some investors or some that would take a chance on and come in here and build some single-family homes. We already see that we got people that's willing to, build these $300,000 and $400,000 homes, because all these different subdivisions that we've got coming up. So that's not, I don't see that being the issue. But that's the only thing that I kind of look at in a negative way, because we all know what duplexes are, and that's what they are. They for rent, and people may live in them for a year or live in them for 2 years.
Well, Andrew, when we go back, you're right, the three of us have been here a long time, and we started doing this even before probably Kevin's time. The concern always was just what you exactly pointed out. When people move into a R1 area, the expectation is that you have single-family homes around you. So every time that we grant a specific use permit, yes, we're making use of property, but to some extent, we are bending a little bit what everybody else in that neighborhood expected when you move in over there, and that was that you are moving into a R1 district. And when you start putting in duplexes, small duplexes, that is no longer single-family residential. And so, hey, that's a message we can send to P&Z, that's a message we can send to city staff, and we can start closing the spigot on that. We're at a point with all this other development that we don't have to continue to allow duplexes in the middle of single-family residential. We still have to balance that, you know, as you point out. Some of the duplexes are an improvement to what was there, but the point is well taken in that we know what these are. They're rent properties. And, you know, they got brick on them, but I'm hoping that's at least hardy on one side, or it may be, that may just be wood on one side. I don't know, but again, 20 years from now, they're not gonna look the same as if someone built a single-family home. That's just a fact, so something for all of us to keep in mind. Yes, sir, Mr. Ansha?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Yeah, you're welcome to address this since this is your development.
Good evening, Council, and good evening, everybody. Just to give a little perspective on, there is a railway line next to it, and also this lot has been empty for 40 years, and we're trying to improve the property, and the chance of a single family coming to that neighborhood, that particular lane, is very slim in our opinion. That's why we did, and I appreciate your comments and concerns, but we'll keep a very close eye on who is coming in and who is going out. So, and it won't be abandoned, and we'll try to improve. And Ms. Flores can vouch for my work, and we have done some in Beverly Hills, and you know, we're not going to let a property run down by any means. And this is a front brick, and surrounding is the siding, the cement board siding, going to be the surrounding.
Hardy board?
Hardy board siding, yeah.
But you made a reference to say that people, single family people, is very short and slim are moving in there. So what if you did a study on saying what type of people, who gonna move in a single family home? I can see to say that, then to me, you just aware of, from my understanding now, where you talking, that you know that you can build a duplex and know somebody gonna rent it.
Right.
So I'm talking about maybe building a single family home to see if somebody would buy it, see if there is a family out there. So have you did any research on that or seen?
No, I did
Because
not.
all these people that's living in, that's moving, that's coming to these factories and stuff, it's a lot of old people that might even had a home, but maybe wasn't able to afford a home to a point, but they came with their job. So if you're building some single family home or something that someone as a starter home, it don't have to be, I'm saying these large or expensive, they're way up in $100,000 home, but something that you can more or less, maybe some small family, something that would buy, and they're gonna take more pride in keeping that up and living in it. And even though they may stay in it for 5 years, 10 years, or 3 years, and get on their feet to buy something different, but all I'm saying, there's gonna be more pride in the staying in something that you own than something that you rent. And if it's rentable, when they move out, it don't necessarily mean somebody gonna move into that rental property. But where if it's a house, it may be another family that just moving into a single family home. Maybe they've been waiting on a situation, and that's what I'm saying. And I don't feel like I don't know how long you've been here, McGregor, how long you've lived here or whatever, but just to make a statement like that, I mean, undoubtedly it had to been people that's living in single family home. They got old for whatever reason, and that's why you right now seeing a lot of single property over there. I mean, empty property and stuff, because they got old and loud, and the kids didn't stay here. Most kids graduate from here, go to college, or even leave and then come back. But who's to say that they wouldn't, or who's to say that they may not just come back, but maybe couldn't come back right now and live in about $350,000 home or $400,000 home. So that's just something I think you could look at, in doing your research, I guess, or whatever,
Well, again, it starts at the P&Z. It starts from us, staff, starts at P&Z, sending the message that, they'll keep doing it if we keep allowing it. His job is to make money.
Yeah.
His job is to build homes and make money. And so it's our job to stop that if we want to stop that.
So, as we, and I'm not in favor of stopping it right tonight, I don't think any of us are, but as we look down the road, because we talk about this every every few months when we get a duplex go up, we remind ourselves that at the end of the day, we don't want to go too far down this road, but we have gone quite a ways down this road, but what do we, as we look toward the future, what do we do to try to figure out at what point we say, okay, for now, we're gonna put the brakes on duplexes for a while? Do we need to get more information on
Probably how many we've put in over there to begin with, and probably how many vacant lots are over there.
That's
That'd be
something
my
I would like
question.
to know.
I mean, I agree 100% with Andrew,
It's a lot.
but how many of these lots are even available on the market?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, I mean, I know it's a lot more probably attractive to buy an existing home and renovate it, put it back on the market. You probably get a lot more bang for your buck that way. Or we're doing this right here. But there's got to be a point, I mean, there's got to be some, established trees and lots that would be attractive to somebody to come in.
Well, what'll happen is if we put a stop to this, someone will do what Andrew's talking about, and they'll take a chance. They'll build spec homes. They'll build smaller spec homes instead of building smaller spec duplexes. They'll build these homes thinking someone's going to come buy them, or might can rent a $1,500 square foot home. I don't know, but they'll stop building the duplexes and they'll start taking a chance on building the houses. And there'll be what Andrew's talking about. Maybe they're smaller homes, maybe they're starter homes, which there's a need for that too.
There's a
So-
huge need for that.
You know, and most of the duplexes, when building over there, people are moving in them, but my point of it is, how long do they stay in them? How
Yeah.
long, when, whatever, and when they move, that's still a rental property, no matter how you look at it. It's a rental property. It's not necessarily saying that somebody gonna move into that duplex or whatever, that duplex sitting there. And it's a whole lot different than somebody that's owning a home and buying it. They ain't gonna be
No question.
They have to step out of it.
This conversation's not about you. We've been having this for a
No,
long
it's
time.
not. No, it ain't. It's nothing against you personally. I'm speaking of.
You live there until you outgrow it, or your financial situation changes, or you get a new job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just life cycle.
Yeah, American dream.
But it needs to grow where somebody else that can step into that and they do the same thing, but it's.
Well, I think the staff is probably clear of where we're headed. And y'all can push back if you want to at some point, but that's where we're heading, so y'all can start sending the message to people that show up and want specific use permits. And it may be that we prefer to have clean vacant lots waiting for someone to build a spec home rather than put another specific use permit, what's gonna become a rent property. That'll be part of our decision process, so. Okay, let's deal with this one. Under item 10, there is a discussion and possible action under item 10 regarding this particular specific use permit. So with all that said, is there a motion under 10?
I'll move that we approve the specific use permit under item 10.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second under item 10. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
You may have gotten the last one, so. At least for a while. Okay, item 11. A public hearing on a replat for 312 North Main by property owner J. Powers dated October 2022.
So, this landowner owns all of this land here and this, that's an old church that's here, and he's selling off, this section back over here. Yeah. So this, inside the red square is the section that he would like to sell off to another owner.
How wide is that north piece there?
This here is 60 foot wide, and the reason they did that is a couple of reasons. But one, the wastewater is on this Red Oak Road right here, so they have to bring it down.
Also, that's Republic Street.
So what are we looking at here though? A replat, huh? So is it platted into several lots now or what?
No, sir. Well, it's one big lot. This entire,
I see, you just wanted to carve it out.
right, he's wanting to carve this section out.
Want to sell the
And
center.
he's gonna, yeah, he's gonna keep this part over here.
You can expect a replat on the other in the near future. We'll see where they go. It's R6, is that what it's zoned?
That one is, yes, sir.
That's out there like when you go into Amsterdam.
Yep, that's right there on the corner when you're coming into Amsterdam, that tricky intersection there.
Yeah, that's his Ambler Park right here.
Mhm. And that's zone half, what do you think, Kevin?
It's R6. R6,000.
So there are no plans for it right now, we're just talking about a replat?
This is just a replat. We have been notified of a future discussion for the people that are in option to buy that, but nothing yet.
Okay. All right, so under item 11, public hearing is open on item 11, 758. Anybody have any comments on item 11? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed at shortly after the same time. Under item 12, discussion and possible action regarding replat for 312 North Main by property owner J. Powers dated October 2022.
I can make a motion.
You bet, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the replat for 312 North Main by property owner J. Powers.
There's a motion to second under item 12. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. To 13, public hearing on final plat for 1014 South Madison by property owner Bartley and Pamela Preston, dated October 2022.
So if you look over on the black and white, you can see that there was two smaller lots, and so we're just combining those so that someone can build on one bigger lot there.
So point out those lots again, if you would. Are they vacant now?
Yes, sir. So you had two smaller lots, and they're just combining them so that they have one larger lot to build on.
Okay. 8 o'clock, public hearing is open on item 13. Anybody want to comment on item 13? Public hearing is open.
We just came in case there was any questions. Work, man.
Okay. Hearing nothing, the public hearing is closed. 8 o'clock, item 14, discussion and possible action regarding final plat for 1014 South Madison by property owner Bartley and Pamela Preston, dated October 2022.
I make a motion to approve the final plat for 1014 South Madison by property owners Bartley and
Second.
Pamela Preston.
Second.
There's a motion to second on item 14. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries. To item 15 is discussion and possible action regarding approval of resolution R-16-2022. Excuse me, a resolution directing publication of notice of intention to issue combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation.
Mayor, Council, good afternoon. My name is Jorge Delgado with Hilltop Securities. We serve as financial advisors to the city. I work alongside Jim Sabonis and Andre Ayala, part of the team who has been representing the city. And it's good to be back. I was here last when we funded the fire pumper truck, and that right there on your first slide is part of the team that represents you. A little bit of background here in this agenda item. What I want to do is walk you through this short presentation, take any questions you may have. We've been working closely over the past month or so with your staff, with Mr. Evans and Ms. Baker, on calculating what the city's financing capacity is for funding street and road improvements within the budget that you approved a couple months ago. And if we could switch over to slide 3, please. What we've, on a conservative basis, found is that the city has grown in tax base, and the city has one outstanding debt issue that is dropping off, and that opens up some cash flow for you within that budget and your current tax rate. Roughly, that solves into around $6.475 million of project funds going to the city. If you finance that over a 20-year period at a tax-exempt fixed rate. How do you get there? The city would issue certificates of obligation, as you have done in the past. This would be no different. So it would be a debt issuance for a 20-year repayment period. What are we looking at? We're looking at funding strictly street and road improvements. You may notice that you have a notice of intent agenda for a $7 million not to exceed number. That's just some cushion added into that, but the goal is to work within the current tax rate and the budget. The only thing that would move that number right there is market conditions. So interest rates, right? We're budgeting a 4.87 right now as a 20-year tax-exempt fixed rate. That has some cushion to it. Rates have, as you know, been trending upward. The Fed has been very clear to us that they're not going to stop raising rates until they get a hold of inflation. So we're adding a 50 basis point cushion should there continue to be any upward trends, which is the expectation. If we are coming in lower than that, we're able to maximize your financing capacity a little bit more, get you some more cash at closing. If rates move against us, it would move the needle just a little bit, but it wouldn't change drastically. The goal is around $6.5 million that the city would get at closing. This would be an open market transaction. What does that mean? We'll move forward with a rating. You're a AA issuer. Would talk to the rating agencies and get that rating assigned as an investment grade rating to you. We'd be back here in front of you on February 13th to take, at which point you'd be taking formal action and enter into the actual debt issuance, and you'd be locking in a rate at that point. What we're looking from you today is direction on implementing this plan of finance, getting to work on the documents, the rating process, everything that needs to be put together so that we're back here on the 13th with some final numbers for you. The closing is set for, and that's on slide 5, page 5 of the presentation, for March 8th. At that point, we would have closed on this transaction and you'd be getting the funds in the city's accounts. Please, any questions you may have, I'd be happy to address those.
I think my question is probably for Kevin more than anybody. So when we've talked about putting money aside for streets, that's a great idea. The only concern, Kevin, is the 20-year payback, because the street probably doesn't last 20 years. Does that make good sense?
The base of the street lasts 20 years, and that's what you're really doing, is building from the base up. You've got so many that just never had any base. We're also exploring a couple of new ways of doing this business. I've had a couple of conversations with Jed. There's a city fairly local that's doing something a little bit different. We're going to go take a look at that and see if it's a better approach. But I think you can accelerate your production both inside and outside city forces with this kind of a drop right up front. You've done quite a few base work. We need some overlays on those. Those will go pretty fast in order to preserve those streets. Then you'll have, I guess it's about every 10 you want to do a seal coat, but you'll have a street on those streets that you'll be able to seal coat every 10 years or so, so it'll last 20 years. But, you know, when I came here, you didn't have any money going towards streets except what you budgeted, and they weren't spending that except on coal mix and potholes. That's not getting you very far. The first thing we did was built capacity of 4 million. What was our first one? Anyway, but the trick is you don't want to let your capacity go. Once that debt capacity falls off, you need to be reissuing, primarily in my opinion, for streets. There will be water and sewer money in here if it's what's the word, associated with the street. If we have to make repairs or do some moving. And we've done that all along, but this is how you get a street program in place and keep it over the long haul. You just don't let your debt capacity go away and you spend it on streets. And it's not anything that's gonna fix itself overnight. We're better than we were, but we got a long ways to go.
Yes, I know one of the things I'd like to see when we get this done is an update of where we are. I don't know that we've seen that in a little while, maybe it's, I don't know.
Haven't done much since the last time you saw it. We've got some stuff done. We've been patching and weather, and we've kind of ran out of money, and we're waiting on the ability to use the ARPA money, which seems to be harder to get to than we thought, but we'll get there.
Okay.
A lot of I's to dot and T's to cross when you do grants. Isn't there, Carolyn?
Well, if it's free money.
Isn't there, Renee?
I will link to that.
Yes. But this is how you keep going and put it in play.
Is there a motion by resolution number, and then we can talk about it if anybody else wants to?
I move that we approve resolution R-16 2022.
I second.
There's a motion and a second on resolution R-16-2022. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a safe trip back.
Yep, thanks for being here. To item 16, discussion and possible action regarding approval of bid award for the Rodeo Tower Water Improvements Project as recommended by Walker Partners.
Mayor, Council, we received 6 bids on October 27th for the Rodeo Tower Water Improvements Project. I believe our estimated cost was about 1.36, 1.37 million. Most of the bids that we received were around that area. The low bid was a 1.312 million. But this was bid as a competitive sealed proposal, which is a little bit different than how we typically bid these projects. So as part of that, we actually had criteria that we scored the bidders on. That criteria included their bid amount, but it also included experience of the contractor, experience of the superintendent that they proposed, their ability to meet budget and time, and then the amount of work that they would be self-performing. And so based on all of those criteria, we are recommending that the city award the contract to B Corp. Their bid amount was 1.386, so about 5.6% higher than what the low bid amount was. I think included in your packet was our scoring matrix. So you can see that the score was relatively close between them. The lowest bidder was LC Paving and Construction. And so we did reach out to, we've never worked with them, so we did reach out to some of their references that they included within their proposal package. And that's how we scored some of their criteria. But we do have experience with B Corp. They have worked on projects within the city of McGregor before. And they actually did a pretty extensive project for the city of McGregor around SpaceX. And that was a linear waterline project. So this would be almost the exact same type of project that they've performed before.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Jacob? So what exactly are we gonna be doing with this? I know it's got a lot of things going on out there, so.
So this project is almost directly related with Knopf. I mean, this would serve them water. Obviously, a 16 inch is a pretty substantial improvement. They would not need the full capacity of that 16 inch, so this will provide the industrial park with enough capacity to grow moving forward.
That along with a couple of million gallons of ground storage later.
Well,
That'll be coming in your future whenever we get a couple of more big projects out there.
So the proposals are open by Walker Partners and evaluated by Walker Partners, or is there also somebody like from the city?
so we evaluated Walker Partners in the city. We held a meeting after the proposals were opened and did a collaborative scoring.
All right, is there a motion under item 16? There's a motion and a second on item 16. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Item 17, discussion and possible action regarding appointment of members to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So Angie, remind us real quick where we are on this.
Okay, we have one sitting board member with a 1-year term open.
Okay.
We have 2 alternate positions still open, one with a 1-year, one with a 2-year. Lord Davis's letter is attached. I also reached out to the other gentleman that had emailed. I emailed him 2 different occasions and tried to call. He has yet to respond.
Okay. Lloyd,
Yes.
how are you this evening?
Fine, you?
I'm doing good. So, you're interested in serving on the board?
Yes, I am.
I know you've been around here a long time, is that right?
Yes, sir. Came here in 1980.
1980, all right. Well, that's good. You want to tell us a little about why you want to serve on the board? Because this usually, I will tell you, Lord, this is usually serves as a stepping stone to other things, so I think you probably realize that. I know you've been to several meetings over the years, and you probably understand that, so.
Well, sir, I've been to a lot of meetings I'll try to make. But like I said, my name is Lord Davis. I'm not originally from here, from Richmond, Virginia. Came here in 1980. Military retiree, 21 years, disabled vet. Also retired fireman here in McGregor. I was on the fire department here for 21 years. And I just want to continue, my help in the community, and help the town grow, the best way I can.
Sounds good. Is there a motion under item 17?
Is this for the sitting board member?
Yes, yes, I would say so,
I'd like to
yes.
make a motion that we appoint Lloyd Davis for the sitting board member with a 1-year term.
Second.
Lots of seconds.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second to appoint Lloyd Davis to the zoning board of adjustment to the open sitting board member 1-year term. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Lloyd, appreciate it.
Thank y'all very much.
Angela, I don't know if it was Renee or Andrew that beat. It was close.
I know,
Hit my ear about the same
I
time.
did put Andrew down when I.
So, Kevin, closed meeting, yea or nay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so, It is 8:17. At this time, we're going to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551, 071 legal, 072 real estate, 074 personnel, and .087 economic development. Tell me what we're hitting tonight, Kevin. Okay, so that takes us to item D, economic development under Texas Government Code Section 551.087, discussion regarding economic development negotiations, including commercial financial information received from a business prospect seeking to locate, stay, or expand, enter into the city of McGregor to discuss economic development negotiations, and/or to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect. It is 8:18, and we are now in executive session. We'll be out as quick as we can to take any action. That thing has never worked. Someone just bashed it. It never had a clock in it.
It worked fine until he reset it.
Yeah, because I was like, what
I looked
happened?
up and half the time there was a temperature on it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, we're on.
All right, no action coming out of executive session, so that takes us to 19. It takes us to 19, announcement from the city manager.
I have nothing to add, council, thank you.
20, request comments from the mayor and/or council members. My question is, have we made any progress on what to do with Wheelie Park over there? I know you kind of batted that around for a while.
I'm gonna tear that stuff out of the ground and figure out where to come up with a couple $1 million.
It's gonna cost that much.
$1 million a quarter.
$1 million a quarter?
Is that what they told me?
No, it was $1 million for the 3 courts plus the 3 pickleball courts.
Okay.
4 tennis courts, but one's lined up like a pickleball court.
I stand corrected.
Only $1 million.
Is that all?
No, it was 2 for what we were looking at, I thought. Anyway.
Lloyd, new appointees have to make the first donation.
50 grand.
Okay, anybody else, council, any questions?
But over in Bewley, y'all are putting up those stop signs there at that one intersection?
Already started. I
Already
believe.
done?
I would've told Chad to tell you, but he left us. They were making prep for it Friday, I know that.
Anybody else, anything? All right, this meeting's adjourned.
Or,